Amanda Costa on the phone with us now. Amanda is one of our reporters trying to gather some more information. Amanda, what have you learned?
Mitch, I've been on the scene here about 20 minutes, and I can hear, Air Tracker 7 above. We can hear a fire alarm going off right now, completely surrounded by police officers, squad units. This area is almost on complete lockdown. Getting in was nearly impossible right now. Ambulances are surrounding us. We've learned some new details in terms of exactly what happened inside of this theater late last night, within the early hours of the morning. We know for sure now that 14 people are confirmed dead. 10 of those bodies still inside the theater. 4, we're told, pronounced dead at the hospital. A total of 50 people injured. And Mitch, and as I arrived on the scene, people who were actually inside the theater, I got to talk to some of those people, and they were telling me just how frenzied it was for them to try and get out. They said that the shooter was at the front of the theater. They heard some sort of a hiss, and then smoke came out, and then shots were fired, and it was sheer panic after that. I spoke with someone who told me they were happy they were at the back of this theater so they could get out of the exit and get away from the shooter. Getting a scope of how many shots were fired and how long this continued and the impact of it. Those in the theater next door, some people were injured, hit by some of these bullets as well. Early on, 7 News was first to confirm through a police source that this suspect, the one shooting suspect, is in custody. I am told from the same source that an alert went out to law enforcement statewide, warning them about possible explosive devices when they were searching this suspect's residence. We're waiting for more information on that suspect right now. We do know he is in custody, though. At the same time, knowing that there still is a sense of panic in this scene from law enforcement and even from emergency personnel and those who were inside the theater. I asked them, why they were still standing outside, across the street, and they told me they just couldn't go home. Mitch.
You said that there was a statewide kind of a bulletin, I'll call it, that's my word, to law enforcement authorities. Was that was the nature of that about a warning for other theaters to be on the lookout for this kind of thing? Is that your understanding?
Yes, it was. It was a warning sent out to law enforcement statewide. The source told me that the root of this concern behind that being sent out was they had a fear that this was not an isolated incident, that it was something that was going to, that was triggered or going to be part of something greater. And that's why they were just putting everyone on standby in that sense.
And you mentioned also that they were worried about possible explosives inside the residence of this suspect. Are you hearing where this person may have lived and what that scene might be like this morning?
Yes, we know that they're on the scene of that apartment. The exact address of it, we just know that it's North Aurora. The exact location, I haven't been able to confirm that, and I'm not comfortable reporting it, but we do know it's North Aurora.
Okay.
Not only the residents worried about some possible explosive devices there, they were saying that any vehicle tied to this suspect, extreme concern with that as well.
And certainly police are really focused on making sure these victims are okay and making sure they have all the evidence, and they're interviewing that suspect at this time. From what you're hearing, do you know anything about this suspect?
I do know it was tough for anyone who I spoke with to kind of give me a play-by-play of what they remember seeing, in those moments. They did tell me, 2 different people told me that they saw some sort of a mask covering this person's face. Nothing about height or anything like that. It was just like a dark blur, and then a pop and smoke, and then panic. That's pretty much how they describe it. So in terms of describing, how they look, how this, man looked or suspect looked, not much more than that due to the nature of it being in a theater and then the smoke.
Yeah,
right.
It was
hard to see.
Dark, they can't see. They're paying attention to the movie. We had heard from some there on scene as our crews are gathered there that in that Theater 8, the one next door to it, where some people were also injured, they even saw some light coming through the wall. I mean, the holes were obviously of significant size. Is that your understanding?
Mitch, I have not been able to confirm that.
Okay.
I do know that bullets penetrated from one theater to another.
Okay.
That's the volume and the velocity involved. But I do not know in terms of that. I told there were two different weapons that was taken with this suspect: a rifle and a shotgun.
Wow, two different weapons.
That speaks to the size of the bullet there. You were saying.
That's
They're
incredible.
pellets, yeah. Mhm.
Amanda, do you know if they're still searching for any additional suspects at this time?
That was my first question to the officer who was letting me even get near to this mall complex. On a great question. Right now, they said they're not.
Yeah, and I'm
they are
seeing
not. But I mean, there's nothing with that alert that was sent out. It tells you that that's not being ruled out.
Yeah, one of the things we were getting from Dan Oates with the police department there was that we don't have any evidence of a second gunman right at this point, but they're going to have to exhaust every possibility.
That's right. I mean, with something like this, it's the sheer to put it into perspective. I mean, there were not enough ambulances to take all these victims. They were loading them into patrol cars just to get them out of here and get some help. So in terms of that, what they're dealing with, priority one was getting everyone out who they could, who's still alive, who they could help, and then tracking down the person who's doing, allegedly shooting the people, and then figure out if there's anyone else involved. And obviously a lot of fear with that involved with people who I spoke with. They weren't sure if there was anyone else involved because it happened so fast. Anyone I spoke with, they only saw one person at the front of the theater, one shooter.
Right. We're looking at an overhead view right now from Air Tracker 7 as it's circling the scene, and we see lots of flashing lights. So we know there are multiple law enforcement agencies on scene with hundreds of police officers. From there on the ground, Amanda, describe what you are witnessing. Does it still feel a little chaotic, or are things relatively calm? And what about the people from the theater? Have they all been cleared out of that area?
Where the area I first arrived was right across the street from the theater. I'm currently at the east side of Dillard's, right across from the Century Theater here. Most of the people, when I first arrived, they were all witnesses, those who had already spoken with police officers, and some looky-loos. Where I'm at now, directly across from the theater, it's all police. It's 5 mobile crime scene units stacked. You can hear the chaos from this alarm, this alert that's still going off, lights flashing, but it's almost an organized chaos. Officers huddling all around me. Not many ambulances because they've all been dispatched out to take victims for help. But in terms of chaos from victims, no, I think it's still shock from those who I spoke with. And they've kind of been, like you said, on a niche, kind of taken away from here and then being, interviewed by investigators trying to piece together what happened.
Yeah, we understand so many were loaded up onto buses taken over to Gateway High School nearby just to get them away from the scene, away from a bit of the chaos.
That's right. One RTD bus is right in front of me, one that they have on standby.
Yeah, just if they have to assist others. So not quite as frantic as it was earlier, but certainly a very active scene still as they're trying to piece this all together. If you're just waking up and turning your television on here, what we have on our hands is a multiple shooting that happened during the midnight premiere of the new Batman movie, Dark Knight Rises. Witnesses tell us someone set off what they think was a smoke grenade and then opened fire in the theater during the movie. Enough firepower, evidently, to not only injure and kill those in that particular theater, but go through the wall and injure people in the theater next to them. And we have confirmed that 14 are dead, up to 50 may be injured.